finally getting a little further on this issue with the fuel pressure. I'm always dropping once I shut the car off and trying to determine if I'm losing pressure while I'm driving. I'm breaking this out into a separate piece from the crank no start when hot, because I'm pretty confident now that the fuel pressure issue is not related to the issue of the car not starting when it's warmed up. So check out my other videos to talk about the continued search for that issue with the no start, and then let's get into what I found on the fuel pressure side of things here. All right, working on this fuel pressure issue. If you've been following along on my videos, you know that I did have a bad fuel pressure regulator. It was definitely leaking out of the vacuum line on the old one, and I thought that was my issue with the loss of pressure. It goes from about 39 down to 0 after I shut the car off in the matter of about 2 minutes or less. So I bought this Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator, and that did not fix the issue. I pulled the injectors once before, or cycled the key a few times on each bank. I don't see anything leaking after I turn the key off. So the only thing worse than replacing a fuel pump is replacing it twice in 3 years. As you can see, I put a new tank, new center unit, new pump, new grommets, everything back in 2020. Here's the sock that just came off of it. There's a little bit of gunk there, I guess. So a quick rundown here. I took my shop vac, cleaned off all the connections. I've already pulled the pump out, pulled the old grommet out. It's not real old, but might as well replace it since a new one came with the pump. Got a new filler neck grommet, and we'll lube that up and get it in there. I had some heat resistant foam padding with adhesive, so I just use that instead of spending $60 on a replacement pad set. Well, I don't know if this is supposed to do it or not, but here's the old pump I just pulled out. Don't know if you can hear that, but it's got something rattling in it. And if I shake my new one, it doesn't make a rattle. So I'm thinking there is something broken there that lets the fuel drain right back out once I shut the key off, or when I start the key, turn the key on and the pump engages, I'll watch my gauge go to 40 and then instantly go down to 20 before I start it. So hopefully get this thing back together and find my problem is gone. So more to come. Now when you go to put this pump ring back on the lock ring, and you put your grommet in here with the filler neck, and messing just with these edges, just everybody probably knows, but this stuff's all extremely sharp everywhere. I also put this door guard, if you know what I'm talking about, this door guard stuff. I had some of this left over because I use it in my engine bay for some of the sharp edges on the fender holes and on the back firewall, that lip, cover it up. I'm going to put some of this right where these lines are. I know they're not really supposed to touch, but just I'm not going to put it where the straps go to hold it up, but just right along the edge here. And I might even go along a couple of parts over here where when you're messing with your exhaust and stuff, a lot of times you're right up against your fuel tank, and I've cut myself before doing that too. So got her all in there. I hate these things. They take forever. I haven't found a good way to do it. It probably took me 15 minutes. Got the lock ring on. That part went in pretty easy. And got to finish trimming up this edge. And it's a good idea to clean out your connectors and put some fresh dielectric grease in there. I'm going to use some of this electric cleaner. Spray in there real good. Watch your eyes, it sprays out quick. I realized that the old rubber grommet is busted. That seals around the filler neck up behind where the fuel door is. So I guess I'm paused a couple days while I get a new one of these. Should be another piece of it that protrudes out and will seal up around the filler neck when you push it through, and that just completely disintegrated when I took it apart. So got one of those on order, and in a couple days I'll be able to get this tank back in. So see you then. All right, let's clean this up while we're at it. Might as well clean up everything, make it look a little better before we put it back together. So we'll just run it on the wire wheel here and see how it looks. Yeah, that's much better. A lot cleaner looking. Touched up the end that goes in the tank, smoothed it out, cleaned it up. So much better. I've changed the fuel pump since all this started, thinking maybe I had a bad check valve in the fuel pump. Went through all that hassle and it did not fix anything at all either. So there's no leak in a line somewhere. I would see it and smell it, or have a catastrophic event when I was driving it. So I'm right back to the regulator again with the symptoms I'm having. So I have a third regulator, a cheapie, just to see if it works. I got this, I think, for 22 bucks. So with this new fuel pressure regulator, it's a cheap non-adjustable regulator. I've had the key on, I cycled it a couple times. Been watching it, it's right around the 34 PSI mark. It's been holding there for several minutes now. Prior to this, as you guys have watched in the other videos, it would have been down to at least 10 already, if not closer to 0, in just a matter of a minute or two. So it looks like, for whatever reason, something's wrong with this brand new Aeromotive that I had bought. Couldn't figure out what was going on, decided to go back to the symptoms really indicate it was the regulator. And sure enough, I bought another regulator, and that seems to have fixed the problem. So I guess you just gotta follow the symptoms, and even with a brand new part, if the symptom is the same and still there, you gotta wonder if you need another part again. So looks like over the last 4 minutes now, it's dropped maybe half a PSI. So vast improvement over what we had before. I think we got this one licked. I was just getting ready to post this video up on YouTube yesterday, and I got home from work. I was still kind of upset about the Aeromotive pressure regulator that I had bought that seemed to have something wrong with it. I looked up my purchase order. I missed my return window by 1 day when I finally thought I had figured out that it was the issue and another regulator fixed the problem. I was going to return it. I couldn't return it. So last night I called Aeromotive, talked to their tech support, explained everything, hoping they would at least offer to replace it or let me send it back to be looked at. And it's quite an interesting conversation. I can't say that it really helped me feel any better, but at least now I know exactly what was going on, and I want to share this story with you guys, because if some of you are searching for this video in the future because you're having similar issues, or if you're just thinking about getting an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator, I think this is pretty important to you. I'm sure a few of you are going to comment that you knew this and you'd figured it out before we got to the end of the video, but this is all brand new news to me, and I've had my questions posted on several of the real big Facebook groups, and not once did anybody tell me that I didn't have a problem. So I called Aeromotive and explained everything. I looked on their website after the conversation to try to verify what they said, and I looked in all the instructions from the box. In case you ever want their tech support number, there's their number. There's the part number that I have that's for small block Fords. And there you can see it's a brand new part. It was built June of 2023 this year. So, but long story short is on their fuel pressure regulators, the guy I talked to claims that their design is completely different than an OEM style fuel pressure regulator. Their design is not have anything internal to it that is meant to hold fuel pressure after you shut the key off. It will go down to zero in the matter of a minute or two, and they're saying that is by design. That's perfectly normal. Aeromotive designs theirs to have the maximum amount of fuel flow that they can get in them and not worry about parts designed inside to hold pressure when you shut it off. So I basically dropped the fuel tank, replaced a fuel pump, pulled the injectors, tested the injectors, put another fuel pressure regulator on it, all for nothing over the last several weeks, because I have grown up and always been around the thought process that you should be having fuel pressure held in your system when you shut it off, and it kept making me think I had a problem somewhere in the fuel system. Nowhere have I found a comment in their instructions, their website, on other websites that sell their products that says, oh, by the way, when you use our product, don't be surprised when your fuel pressure goes to zero. Don't call us, don't return it. There's not a problem. Like, you would think that would be something they would put in big bold letters somewhere, because up until you use that kind of a product, how else are you going to know that it works completely different? So now I've learned my lesson. Dave Ramsey would say I've paid my stupid tax with all this other time and parts and stuff that I went through. But again, how are you going to know till you know? So now you know. And now I can conclude the fuel system, I guess, video series here, because I definitely did have a bad regulator at the beginning that was leaking fuel up into the intake through the vacuum line. I know that for sure because I tore it apart and saw it. But ever since then, I went through a lot of hassle for no good reason, and wanted to share all that with you guys.